Hey guys, it is Thursday morning and this is Men In Valiant Pursuit. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm really excited about sharing this message from God's Word, and we're going to be in Matthew again, chapter 2 today. And we're going to be talking about pursuing faithfulness to God's assignment for us. Faithfulness to God's assignment for us. You know, it's very interesting if you think about your childhood. You know, the stories that you hear in your childhood, aren't they really impactful and important? I mean, just the other day I was sitting down talking with a friend, and we were just trading stories about our great grandparents. You know, we were talking about what we had heard about our great-grandparents, the things they did, and just people we knew as children that really shaped our lives. And it's just very interesting. And, you know, the stories we hear, now as the breakdown of the family has taken place in the United States, those stories have been more and more difficult to find, right? More and more difficult. And I think that's truly affected our children in our country. Because, you know, as we tell these stories, it starts to form identity and things. Now, I want you to think a little bit about the stories that Jesus must have heard when he was a kid. I'm going to tell you one of them. And this is actually, you might think I'm a little crazy, but this is probably part of my favorite part of the Christmas story. And you'll see why. So, you know what happens. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem, this is chapter 2 of Matthew. He was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of King Herod. Wise men from the east arrived unexpectedly in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews?" So they go to the king. Catch that? And they ask him, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews?" So who would be born King of the Jews if they're talking to the king? What would be the king's son and heir? Something like that. Remember, Herod is appointed by Rome. "For we saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." So in other words, they're following a prophecy. "So when King Herod heard this, he was deeply disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. So he assembled all the chief priests and scribes of the people and asked them where the Messiah would be born. Where's this guy going to be born? "In Bethlehem of Judea," they told him, "because this is what was written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, because out of you will come a leader who will shepherd my people." Now, I want you to think about this. King Herod was not the most moral individual. He's thinking, do I got a kid out there somewhere? Seriously. Do I have an heir out there somewhere? You know, he's just that self-absorbed, right? To think he is the only source of the next king. And then Herod secretly summoned the wise men and asked them the exact time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, report back to me so that I too can go and worship him." Whoa, what a lie. He knows he's not wanting to worship this kid. He's already thinking in his mind, there's a little baby that's competition for my power. And guess what? So are all of the leaders of Jerusalem, believe it or not. So after hearing the king, they went on their way, and there it was, the star they had seen in the east. It led them until it came and stopped above the place where the child was. And when they saw the star, they were overjoyed beyond measure. Entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and falling to their knees, they worshipped him. They didn't do that for Herod. They know something special has just arrived. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their own country by another route. They didn't give Herod any gifts. Nothing. Not a zip, zilch. Not even coal. After they were gone, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, "Get up, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and escaped to Egypt. He stayed there until Herod's death, so that what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet might be fulfilled, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Then Herod, when he saw that he had been outwitted by the wise men, flew into a rage. He gave orders to massacre all the male children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, in keeping with the time he had learned from the wise men. Then what was spoken through Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and she refused to be consoled because they were no more. Okay, this is the story you grow up with. Think about it. There are people who were out to kill you before you even knew that you were you. We had to flee to Egypt because, you remember, you ever had that snowstorm story? There was this horrible snowstorm and you were just a baby and I had to walk uphill 2 ways through the snow to get formula. Something like that. How about this story? Hey, we had to walk to Egypt to avoid you getting massacred, and even after we did. So Jesus is he's being raised with the idea of a miraculous birth. We want to think about all the positives, right? But how many children were killed because of him? So all of his life, if you think about it, and you can go through the life of Jesus in the book of Matthew or any of the Gospels, and you can see there were people just who were out to kill him. They were out to kill him.
Killed in his name.
Yeah. Now listen. Did that dissuade Jesus from completing his assignment? Not at all. It's one thing for people to give you a hard time when you know you have something you need to do. How many of you here know you have something you need to do, and there are people that kind of get in the way of you accomplishing your task? It's one thing for you to have obstacles. Wouldn't it be another thing if you had an assignment and there were death threats all the time? If the threat of death was always there. Jesus predicted his own death, and that's probably the least amazing prophetic word that ever came out of Jesus' mouth, because since he was a child, life was always threatened. He kind of knew that was going to happen. There was a plot to kill Jesus. Why? Why was there a plot to kill Jesus? Because he was trying to complete his assignment, which was to walk in the authority God had given him. To walk in the authority that God had given him. And what that meant was there were some people who would lose authority. They're going to lose power. And I'll tell you what, people will do anything to keep power. Faithfulness means fidelity to a standard, fidelity to a commitment, a promise, fidelity to a cause or a goal or an objective. That's what faithfulness is. Faithfulness to your assignment is that you are faithful to that which God has anointed you and created you to do, to be. When you are faithful to your assignment that God has given you, all of hell will come out against you for that. To move against some even good people will come out against you because their authority is threatened or something like this. So the question that I have for you is what's it going to take for you to not take things so personally and realize that when you're going about the business that God is giving you, it's not about you, it's about God. He's given you authority, and you're working it out with fear and trembling. You're working it out with Him. And people will come against you in the assignment God has given you. They will. And it will be difficult. But they're not opposing you. Don't take it personally. Love them anyway. They're opposing God. Could you do what you're called to do while under the constant threat of injury or even death? I was watching a guy the other day who was talking about purpose. A lot of times God will show you a vision of where you're going to be, but He's not going to show you the plan, because if you knew what it would take for you to get to where He wants you to be, you would say, no, not today. Think about Joseph. Joseph has a vision, right? All his brothers bowing down to him. He was in a place of authority. And God didn't show him how that was going to happen. He got thrown in a pit and dragged into slavery and then into prison and then back again. I'm telling you, it was a lot. A whole lot. And if Joseph would have seen the plan, he might not have spoken up so readily about what he had saw in his dream about where he was going. God will give you a vision for your assignment and the end result, and often not give you the steps that are going to get there, because those steps, that process, is what will form you into the person you need to be able to walk in the authority He wants you to walk in down here in the future. Jesus, even as an infant, understood what the end result was going to be. It's a lot of power in knowing where you're going. If you want to learn, what we're not going to do this morning about hearing God and knowing what your assignment is. I know that's what's going through your mind right now. Well, what do I know? How do I know what my assignment is? Well, you have to listen to God. You have to sit before the Lord, and you have to say yes. We've done a whole lesson on that in the past. Guarding your yes and keeping your ears open to the Lord and seeking Him. If you ask and you seek and you knock, right? He was going to open that door for you. He's going to show you. That's just absolutely a promise from the Lord. When you're ready, He's going to show you. Assignments change from time to time. Sometimes the assignment doesn't change, but the location changes. Lots of things for you to be thinking about. But once you know where it is you're to go, realize that there's going to be opposition. There's going to be difficulty. Stay faithful to what He's called you to be and to do. And that is your MVP for this morning. You guys have a great week, and we will see you next week.